So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to our inaugural virtual First Friday event. I'm excited to have this virtual exhibit this month by Debra Delbecq. We're going to be posting the exhibit on our website as well as changing our windows every week so that you can see every piece from outside of the gallery. And not only you, but anybody who's passing by on foot, bike, or in their car. I'm excited about that because I really feel that art is healing, it brings joy, and I'm quite sure that the pieces that you're going to see tonight will make you feel calmer and better. So another piece of news I wanted to pass on is that according to the governor, we can be open tomorrow, starting today. And when I say open, I mean that we will be open for online orders, and also we can do curbside and front door deliveries, and also curbside and front door on approval. So if there's a piece that you'd like to see, I'm happy to bring it to your home with my mask and my gloves and drop it by your front door, and we don't have to have any contact at all. We're also looking into the possibility of opening the gallery to customers by appointment. So I'm trying to learn whether that's something we can do or not. So tonight I'm going to give a talk about our featured artist Debra Delbecq's new work, as I've said, as she's not able to be with us. But before we do, well, a couple of things. I wanted to just go back and say all of your microphones have been muted to eliminate background noise. If you have a comment or a question as we go along, please use the chat button at the bottom of your screen. And I'll type something in now to show you how that will work. At least I think I can. Let's see. You're probably all Zoom experts by now, and I don't need to show you this. Huh? Yeah, try to fix this. So we've eliminated background noise by turning off microphones, also video. And if you have a comment or a question, please use the chat feature to give that question to us, and we'll answer all questions at the end of the session. And what I'd like to do now before we get started is to turn this session over to Tom Burr, and who's going to take you through a little video about Monet mules. So let's get that started. Hi, Tom.
Hi, I'm Tom Burr. I'm Cynthia's husband. Cynthia's the owner of Vivid Art Gallery. And as she started putting together these First Friday events, she wanted to develop a signature cocktail, something that we could serve that everybody would recognize every time that they came in for a First Friday event. So we said, what can we do around art names? And we came up with a number of artists. We finally landed on Monet. What can we make with Monet? We said a Monet mule. Obviously, it's based upon the Kentucky mule. So let's talk about that. Let's make one. First, the ingredients. We start with Knob Creek bourbon. Second, Fever Tree ginger beer. Third, Luxardo maraschino cherries. These are great. We also have a squeeze of lime and a slice of lemon to make this. So let's go ahead and make one. We start with 4 ice cubes. Then we add next the squeeze of the lime. Drop it in. We add 1.5 ounces of the bourbon. We add the lemon slice. We fill the glass to the top with ginger beer. Last but not least, maraschino cherry and a little of its sauce. So what we're going to do is at the end, we're going to froth that just a little bit. So you have a little froth on top. that is a Monet mule. Enjoy it.
Okay, so I see that I have Roland Catenacci's video showing. If you could please turn your video off, that would be really great. So the last thing I'd like to do before we get started is to raise my Monet mule and drink to your health. To your health, or Santé, or all the different languages that we raise this toast in, has never meant more than it means today. So to your health. Tonight I'm going to talk about featured artist Debra Delbecq's new work. She and I spent a lot of time this week talking about the pieces in the exhibit, and I will do my best to make her work come alive for you. So your screen is going to alternate between me and a PowerPoint presentation, which is mostly photos. We'll post a video of tonight's talk on our website, as well as a video tour of the exhibit. Okay. So let me give you a little bit of background on Debra, just to help you understand her work. Debra grew up in Sandusky, Ohio. She's a Midwesterner. She received her BFA from the Heron School of Art in Indianapolis and received an MFA from the California Institute of the Arts. She taught art as well as painted for a number of years and ultimately settled in Indiana, where she purchased a working farm, where she has lived, painted, and gardened for over 30 years. Now, if you go to visit Debra, you're in for a surprise, because you're going to drive through miles and miles of cornfields. And suddenly you turn right. Oops, I forgot about the artist statement. I'm sorry. Guys, this really was well organized, but it's getting a little confused. So I'm gonna just skip Deb's artist statement and come back to that and continue with what I was saying. So you turn down this little street after all these miles of cornfields, and you'll see this beautiful LA of cypress trees. Wow, where does that come from? And you drive a little further and you come to a clearing, and there's this beautiful red brick farmhouse with a gorgeous big tree shading it. And you go around the back and there's this gorgeous garden. And beyond the gorgeous garden, there are these fields of grain. And you have to shake yourself a little, because it feels very much like you just jumped out of Indiana and crash landed in Tuscany. It's that gorgeous and that surprising. So now I'm going to switch back to Debra's artist statement, because what we just saw will help you understand it a little bit more. She says, "These paintings are a continuation of my ongoing themes, the changing rhythms of the fields in my garden onto my canvas. Water is threaded through them, not only in their titles, but physically in the flow and movement of the paint. Shapes and colors, I think this means similarly, move your eyes around, creating layers of depth. Using your imagination, of course, not just looking with your eyes only, but with all of your senses." And as we go through these paintings, this artist statement will mean more and more to you. So, whoops, went too far. So once you go into and around Deb's house, I just lost my cursor, there we go. There are all these little gorgeous vignettes everywhere. And you really realize that you are in the home of an artist. And here is a photo of Deb in her studio. Her studio is up on the second floor of her house, and you can see she has a big floor-to-ceiling window there, which looks out over the garden and the fields that we just saw. So lots of light, and always her companion is always the garden and the fields. So Debra works in acrylic, which dries very quickly, allowing her to paint very spontaneously. She notes that acrylic paints, oops, I'm going too far, have changed over the years, and it's possible now to achieve colors very much like that of oil colors. Debra's color palette is extremely saturated, which means that her colors are very pure and undiluted, and you can see that in the painting that's behind her. Another thing that's interesting about Debra's work is that she employs a technique called sgraffiti, which is graffiti with an S in front of it, which means that she carves into the surface of her paint to represent movement or to reveal layers underneath. And she even signs her name by carving into paint. Let me show you. Let's see. Keep losing my cursor. Well, this is an example. This is just a detail out of one painting, the sky, and you can see there those lines that she's created in the paint, and then she's filled them in with other colors. And here is her signature, just engraved into the paint. So with all that as a backdrop, let's take a look at the paintings in this exhibit. The first painting, Evening Dew, is a very large piece, 60 by 72 inches. And Debra worked on this painting for a long period of time, building it up and adding more information over time. She wants the viewer to travel through the painting, looking at the different sections and feeling the energy of the piece. The violet and green color combination is a favorite of Debra's. And her reference for this piece was a wet, foggy evening when the purpley blue colored larkspur in her garden was in full bloom. And I'll show you a photo of that. Gorgeous, isn't it? So there's that as an inspiration. Oops. And there's the painting that resulted. So going on to our next painting, which is called Raining Poppy Petals. Also a very large painting, 48 by 60, and which also took Debra a long time to complete. This painting is all about change. Again, the landscape out her window is a reference point. In this case, the petals of poppies blowing in the wind, poppies growing in the pasture that are blowing away in the wind. But obviously, it's also a very abstract work. Using blue and orange, which is another favorite color combination of Debra's, she communicates the power of the wind. The sky is an absolute collision of colors, which creates a lot of attention in the painting. And I took a picture today of a detail of this painting. The lower left-hand corner there, which, you know, these are small, so it's hard for you to imagine what this is like in a huge painting, but here's just the information that's in that tiny left-hand corner. So there's the little red petals, there are the poppy seed heads, there's a lot of movement, there's engraving, there's so much in these paintings, you really have to see them in person. The next painting is Showers Sweep Through. And here Debra is celebrating spring, the rain, and new plantings. You really feel the energy of the wind in this painting. I'm not sure if you can see it, but she has drawn or carved into her paint quite a bit here, referencing the marks that are left in the earth by planters and emphasizing the fragility of the land. Conservation is a very important topic to Debra, and she is stressing the aliveness of the earth in this piece. This next piece is called Drifting Fog, and right now this is in our south-facing window, and this photo does not do it justice at all. It's an absolutely gorgeous painting. It's much quieter than the previous paintings we've looked at because the fog is obscuring the colors of the fields. Again, the feeling that she's expressing is the aliveness of the fog as it moves across the land. There's a lot of texture in this painting, which while the fog is muting the land is still very much alive and breathing. And here is another example of inspiration for that painting. Next painting, On the Bridge, references the flooding that engulfed Debra's farm last spring as the creek running through her property turned into a raging river. There's almost no separation in color here between sky, creek, and land. The feeling of water just dominates this painting. Debra uses strong shapes to convey the turbulence and the depth of the storms that swept her farm. This piece, Swimmer, is also about water, but from a very different context than the previous piece. This painting is lighthearted and happy. And again, you've got to see this piece in person because as vivid as it looks here, it's even more so in person. Debra uses the color yellow to create a sense of hope. She painted this piece over the winter when she was yearning for summer. She does a beautiful job of balancing this painting, using color and mark making to create harmony and stability. Her intent is to lead the viewer's eye around the painting using color cues and circular patterns. Despite its title, Swimmer, it's a very abstract work that begs the user to use their own imagination in interpreting it. Cloud Garden, our next piece, is a smaller piece and it's Debra's favorite. When I asked her why, she talked about the use of color theory to bring harmony while using intense bright colors, which is very challenging to any artist. In addition to color, the piece includes a complex composition of strong shapes and lines. These represent the idea of dirt being turned over so that it can breathe. Again, she's communicating the idea that the earth is alive, and this painting says that really dramatically, doesn't it? Our last painting is called Radishes, and that's actually the painting that's right behind me. At first glance, this painting is a bit more representational than some of Debra's other pieces because it actually does depict crop rows of radishes, including what is seen above the ground and what's underneath the ground. But it's meant to be more of a commentary on our current situation and the feeling of isolation that we're all experiencing. In Debra's family, when someone needs to get out of the house and get some air, they say they need to go plant radishes. So thus the title. The repeating round shapes she uses connote listening and hearing, and the orderly spacing of agricultural rows bring a sense of order to a world that increasingly seems chaotic. So that concludes already our artist talk for tonight. And so I'm going to flip this off and put up the chat capability. And I'd be happy to have any questions that you might have. Anybody? Okay. Then I'm going to thank you so much for joining us tonight. I invite you to email or call me with any ideas or suggestions you might have for how to make these virtual First Fridays more interesting and informative. We're always looking for ways to improve. We look forward to seeing you again next month. And now if you'd like to unmute yourself and turn your video on, we can take a few minutes and visit. So I'd love to see you. Thanks. Hi. Okay, I do have some questions coming in, so I'm going to try to respond. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see your faces. This is wonderful. To Tom, what is my favorite piece? You know what? I don't have a favorite piece yet. I might, because over time they do sort of different pieces start to grow on you in a different way and you start to look at them differently. But right now we've just unwrapped them all today and they're all new to me and I'm just sitting here surrounded by them and they're all so gorgeous. So again, I hope people can come and see them. When we do the video tour, we'll put that on the website. You'll be able to see them better than you can in pictures. Pictures just don't do them justice. Let's see what else. So a question was, when we say that Debra spends a long time working on pieces, how long? It really varies. On those really large pieces, those first two that I showed you, which are so huge, she started working on those, I think, last summer, and she just finished them up in the last couple of weeks, which doesn't mean to say that she's working on them constantly, but she comes back to them over and over again until she's satisfied with them. And she is adding information all the time. It's like she'll want to tell you something a little bit more about nature or about her farm, and she finds a way to incorporate something new into each painting. Thank you, Karen, for noticing that my shirt matches my painting behind me. Sure. Let's see, what else do we have? How did I connect? So Debra was one of our very first artists that we had here at the gallery. And the way we connected is that my partner at the time, Martha Rushman, her brother-in-law had a big gallery in Indianapolis, and he was tapped to become the head of the art museum in Indiana. And so he closed his gallery, and Martha had known Debra and had known her work. And so we asked her if she would be interested in being part of our gallery, and she said yes. So we're so thrilled to have her. She does work unlike anything else that we have here at the gallery. And these are the biggest paintings we've ever had here at the gallery. So we're kind of excited about that as well. The painting behind me is the one that, I'm gonna get out of the way for a second so you can see it better. Let's see if I can open it up.
Nice.
So this is the one where these are actually crop rows in the garden, and there's little dabs of red here. I don't know if you can see that, which are the radishes. And then the curling circular lines and shapes would be the root systems. It would be what's underneath the ground. So she's got what's above, what's below. And again, this was sort of meant to reflect how she's feeling about where we are as a society right now, and bringing a sense of orderliness, but also this whole idea of we need to go out and get some air. So let's go plant some radishes. How is my Monet mule? Oh, it's quite good. Thank you. Okay, let's see. I think that's all of our questions. So I'm just going to see who I see. I see Sue Jacoby, who's my main person right here now. I'm not sure how that happened, but hi, it's so nice to see you.
Hello.
And I'm going to change my view. There we go. I see the Schmidts. Hi. I see my mom. Hey, Mom. I see Karen Kelly. Hi, Karen. I see Corey. Hi. And Laura. We've talked before. And
I said I wish we were there having a cocktail tonight, right?
I do too. Yes.
It would have been a good night.
It would have been a beautiful night. I know it. It's gorgeous. But I was, originally we were all hoping in the neighborhood that we would be starting again in June. Well, originally May, but then we thought June. But I kind of guessed that none of us are going to be ready to be in groups.
Maybe we need little holes in our masks with a straw.
Straw.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is that possibly we can do some sort of an outdoor event in the whole neighborhood here, where people wouldn't have to be so close together, and one or two people could, wander into stores, and we could sort of regulate so that nobody got too close together and nothing got too crowded. But it would still be like a coming together and a gathering, which would feel so good, wouldn't it? So I don't know.
Maybe like an art show, like how they set up booths but
yeah, maybe.
Have you heard anything about art shows this whole summer? I haven't heard a thing.
I haven't heard a thing either. Yeah. I really haven't. But
I mean, with Ravinia canceling, but that's a huge crowd of people. That feels different.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'll check in with the North Shore Art League and find out what they're going to do with theirs. But since there's been no announcement, I'm sure they're just waiting to see. I think it's
in the Botanic Gardens till the end of June. They didn't even talk about, they're done till June. So
yeah.
But thank you. This was not what I expected, but I enjoyed it. Really.
Well, what were you expecting?
I don't know. People talking like a Zoom, like a comedy thing where people are on the Zoom drinking and talking. This was much more educational, but seeing the artist's home and the fields, breathtaking.
Oh, good. I think so too. Yes, it's amazing. And again, it really informs your understanding of her work. I think to see her work in isolation is just, it wouldn't be enough. You really need to have that background. So
I really
thank you.
Your thoughtful presentation of presenting her home first, and then watching her create her art overlooking the yard.
It really is so beautiful. I have to say, I was really just taken aback the first time that I went there. It was just like
we were just there yesterday.
We were just there yesterday in the rain, but it wasn't as beautiful in the rain, but it's just so out of context where it's located. You can't even imagine this little haven that she's created in this kind of very rural spot. So anyway, thank you again, all of you, so much for joining us, and we'll do it again next month. And if you have any ideas for me, other little things that we could add into this to make it a little more of a party, we'd love to do that. So
how about door delivery? Tom can bring Monet mules to all of our houses.
Now there's an interesting idea. I'm sure Tom would love to do that.
For a small fee, I'm available.
Oh dear.
Where's the jazz quartet?
I actually tried to get live music that I was going to patch in and certain things, and it didn't work out, but we'll try to do that for next time.
Oh, because they're amazing.
They're amazing, yeah. So what we thought was probably we could only do one piece because they can't come together. so we could have maybe a pianist from their location.
Ugh.
be
People
part-
do that. I have no idea how though. Like musicians do things, but
It's kind of challenging. I've spent the
I bet.
last few days kind of learning how to do as well as I did.
no, you did a great job.
Yeah.
Take care, everyone. Stay well.
Yep. Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Here's my cursor.
What do you mean?